The competitive spirit is impossible to suppress. That's exactly what happened last night when Richmond and St Kilda did battle in a footy Olympics.
The Tigers and the Saints came together at Gosch's Paddock last night on the suggestion of new Richmond coach Robert Walls. During his time in Brisbane, he'd successfully brought the Bears and the Broncos together for what is essentially a bit of fun.
So we'll play 4 games, mix it round. It's all just light-hearted. We'll have a barbecue after it. I think it's something that clubs should do more of.
The game's on us very quickly, and to get the boys back and get them into sort of a little competitive frame of mind, but some enjoyment, how about we get together and have a games night?
The 4 games were cricket,
good pace, Chop,
soccer, touch football and volleyball, with a footy, of course. The session gave players such as Matthew Richardson a chance to continue their climb back from serious injury, while the likes of Luke Beveridge could get to know their new teammates. Amongst the rules for tonight's competition, that the touch football was supposed to be non-contact, but put 2 professional competitive teams up against each other, and rules soon go out the window.
Someone's there to bump him. Bloody hell, just put it on.
If his head's in the way, just kick it.
We've got a couple of videos rolling at the moment, so we'll tell them that before the game starts.
That was supposed to be non-contact, wasn't it?
They started, Pete. No, I think, two different teams, a footy and a couple of goals, and there's always bound to be a bit of competition. Now, it's all good fun.
The combination of a warm afternoon and the urge to compete made sure both the Saints and the Tigers worked up a sweat.
I think we could be playing marbles or whatever, and you'd still, once the boys get out there and there's a game to be won, you always want to win it.
Oh, it's really great. I thought when Stan first announced it, I thought, it's a bit ridiculous, but I'm glad it did happen, and it's really good.
The same star status, the same position, but very different fortunes for Matthew Richardson. His knee reconstruction and skipper Tony Freeze have remained strong. Playing a full-scale practice match against Fitzroy at Skinner Reserve, both move freely.
It's a bit more difficult getting the wind, getting the fitness. Yeah, you do so much training, but just your second win, your second and third efforts is really difficult.
Yeah.
But 2 or 3 games and we'll fix that, mate.
The Tigers cruised home by 12 goals.
Good news for Tigers fans, with Matthew Richardson making his return from injury. The Tigers were far too strong for Fitzroy, winning by a convincing 72 points.
Year-old West Australian Darren Gaspar today became one of the AFL's highest paid players when he was picked up by Richmond in the pre-season draft. Despite a price tag of around $275,000 for the next 2 years, the Tigers are confident Gaspar will be worth it.
Shortly after today's draft, Gasper was making himself at home at Punt Road. The 19-year-old, who played 21 games in 2 years with the Swans, is conscious of the pressure he's put on himself in asking for a reported $275,000 over the next 2 years.
I guess that kind of pressure comes with football, and you sort of come to expect it, and you don't, all the stuff in the paper, you don't read it all the time, you just sort of try to push it aside.
Melbourne, who was beaten in the bidding war for Gasper, slammed the drafting system.
Well, I think the nomination process...
Deep in with all this pressure, it does have an effect, yeah.
Coach Robert Walls had his eye on Gasper when he first bobbed up in the draft 2 years ago. The Swans snapped him up then, but Walls has finally got his man.
He's still got a lot of learning in front of him, but I just think the potential for him to develop into a very good player is huge.
Fitting tonight's ANZ Cup match against Collingwood, when 2 class acts make their returns. Skipper Tony Free and young gun Matthew Richardson are on the comeback trail after knee reconstructions.
The Tigers skipper was doing his best to keep his mind off the comeback game tonight, but after doing his knee in round 5 last year, he's itching to get back onto centre stage.
The knee feels great. Yeah. I've done like all the pre-season basically, played a couple of intra-club games and one against Fitzroy last week.
The Tigers will also play exciting forward Matthew Richardson, who after a stunning start to 95, joined Free on the sidelines after also undergoing a knee reconstruction.
We'll probably have a quiet word and just see how each other's going, but no, we'll look after each other a bit. We'll probably be at different ends of the ground, I'm not sure, but I know he's excited.
In Warragul, meanwhile, Richmond has scored a 21-point win against the Swans. High-price recruit Darren Gasper was shortchanged by this Paul Kelly shirt front. A good sign for the Tigers was the form of Matthew Richardson, who played his best match since returning from a knee operation. Richardson pulled in several strong marks and kicked 2 goals. Matt Dowling, National 9 News.
Hawthorn's pre-season was boosted by an impressive 22-point win over Richmond in Tasmania. Trailing at three-quarter time, the Hawks kept Richmond to 1 point in the final term. And further bad news for the Tigers, Brendan Gale carried from the field with a knee injury.
The skipper has vowed to settle a score with Richmond in next weekend's season opener. It was the Tigers who ended Essendon's premiership dream last year.
We're looking at having a win to get one back.
The outer wing here at Windy Hill hasn't seen so much action for years, but family days were pretty popular as teams made a last-ditch effort to improve membership before the season begins. Ironically, the Tigers were one of them, and Robert Walls has different views on next Saturday's Bomber clash.
All we want to do is get out there on the MCG and give it to Essendon, so I'm sure you'll be there on Saturday.
Of AFL clubs to monitor players' heart rates at training could spell the end for those who like to bludge. Once subjected to the tiny scientific invention, footballers will never be able to pull the wool over the coach's eyes again. Players strapping watches and bands to their bodies has been a regular occurrence down at Punt Road for the past couple of seasons.
We take everyone's maximum heart rate and we know what their high, moderate and low intensity zones are.
While the player trains, the watch records his heart rate, which reveals how hard the player is pushing himself. So, for the first time, coaches can tell scientifically whether a player is training to his maximum.
Yeah, at times you can think you're working hard, but you're not really, so this is the truth, I suppose.
After completing the session, the information is then downloaded into a computer and a printout is given to the player.
And some of them ask me even before we get up the race how they've gone, and it's a little bit hard for me. I haven't worked out the ESP yet.
And what does it tell us about players before the first bounce?
As soon as the siren goes, whether they're in the play or not, their heart rates go straight up.
Fitzroy coach Mick Noonan, whose company distributes the watches, says although they're a new device in AFL football, they have been used extensively in other sports for a number of years.